Around 6 in the morning, I opened the door of my lonely home in the Adirondack Mountains, breathing in the fresh forest air, filled with the scent of pine trees and morning dew. Aidan Brody, once a journalist, now an aspiring writer, not yet fully awake, just wearing a worn flannel shirt and tattered shoes, walked out onto the street, yawning, dreaming of a strong cup of coffee that could help me wake up and start a new day in my self-imposed wilderness retreat. At that moment, I froze as if struck by electricity, because just a few steps away from me stood a massive black bear, its presence seeming to fill the entire space, making the air heavy and silent. The animal didn't move, didn't growl, showed no signs of aggression. It just stood on my porch, panting, its body trembling, fur matted and sometimes wet, as if it had just emerged from a raging river or fought a brutal battle with an unknown enemy. What struck me most were the predator's eyes, black, wet, almost human eyes, tears seemingly streaming from them, running down its face like a broken faucet. I had never seen a wild animal truly cry in my life, and the sight pierced my heart, making me forget my fear of this powerful creature that could crush my skull with a single swipe of its paw. Only then did I notice that the beast was holding the lifeless body of a cub in its mouth, its limbs dangling limply, head tilted to the side, showing no signs of life, like a rag doll abandoned by a careless child. In that moment, I realized that what stood before me wasn't just a bear, it was a mother bear, one with a dying cub. I thought about closing the door and reaching for the old gun hanging on the kitchen wall, the natural reaction when facing wildlife at your doorstep. But something in the predator's behavior, in that silent maternal despair, stopped me, making me feel that this wasn't a threat, but a mother standing on the threshold of a tragedy too deep for me to name. As I slowly stepped back, my heart pounding against my ribs, my eyes never leaving the mother bear, to my surprise, she took a few careful steps toward me, then with almost human gentleness, placed her cub directly on the wooden floor of my porch, stepped back and sat on her haunches, staring at me unblinkingly, as if expecting something I couldn't yet understand. Ignoring all self-preservation instincts, all the stories of bear attacks, all the ranger's warnings, I knelt before the motionless cub, which looked tiny, no bigger than a standard cocker spaniel, ribs protruding, dried blood on one ear. Just as I was almost certain it was dead, its chest gave the faintest tremble, so slight I might not have noticed if I hadn't been staring so intently. I looked up at the bear, who continued to watch me with an eerie, conscious expectation, and before I could think, the words spilled out, "I'll do my best, okay? I'll try to help him." The bear didn't move, as if understanding every word, my heart hammering in my chest as I carefully wrapped the trembling cub in my flannel shirt and slowly, without sudden movements, retreated inside, braced for a growl or attack. But the bear just kept sitting there quietly, as if she knew something I didn't. Inside, I laid the cub on the couch and frantically gathered everything that might help: towels, a heating pad, water bottles, more out of instinct than knowledge, while glancing out the window where the mother bear remained, a motionless shadow watching my house. The cub felt cold, limp, but not yet past the final threshold. Standing in the middle of the living room, holding this barely alive little creature, I thought, what the hell am I supposed to do now? At that moment, I realized this wasn't just a strange encounter with wildlife, not just a bizarre twist of fate. There was something more, something that had chosen me despite all natural laws and common sense. I wasn't ready for this responsibility, but the bear seemed ready to trust me, waiting at the edge of my property, watching the house all day as I tried to save her cub, who seemed unwilling to slip away without a fight. The cub lay on my couch, surrounded by towels, motionless and cold. I knelt, carefully placing 2 fingers on its tiny ribs, searching for a pulse or breath. Feeling nothing obvious, I held my breath, leaned closer, and caught the woody, earthy smell of wet fur tinged with the metallic tang of blood. Then, subtly, its chest rose and fell, a weak but real breath that made me exhale in relief. "You're alive, little one. You're still with us." I wrapped the cub tighter in my shirt, then hurried to the back room where I found an old heater. I turned it to full blast, surrounding it with every soft fabric I could find, blankets, towels, pillows, creating a warm nest for my small patient. Its breathing was shallow, its chest barely moving. On closer inspection, its hind legs seemed unnaturally stiff, as if broken or paralyzed. Clotted blood around one ear made it clear this wasn't just exhaustion. Something terrible had happened to this cub. A scratching sound outside made me look out the window. The mother was still there, sitting like an ancient statue, patiently watching the house where her cub lay. I grabbed the phone and called the nearest vet, Rachel Kowalski, though I knew she mostly worked with farm animals. "Rachel, it's Aiden. I've got a bear cub in my house, injured in really bad shape." Its mother brought it to me, left it on the porch. "She's still here waiting outside." After a long pause of disbelief, Rachel finally said, "Aiden, you sure you haven't been drinking?" "No, damn it, I'm serious." "I don't have time to explain. What do I do to save him?" Another pause, then a sigh before she gave clear instructions. "Keep him warm, check for open bleeding. No solid food yet, just liquids. Mix honey and water, feed it drop by drop. I'll call Ginny, she used to work at a wildlife rehab center." "Hang tight, we'll be there soon." I hung up, rushed to the kitchen, found an old bottle of honey, mixed it with warm water, and used a turkey baster to carefully open the cub's mouth, letting a few drops in. At first, nothing. But after a few tries, its tongue twitched slightly, and a thread of hope tugged at me. "That's it, come on, little fighter. Stay with me." I sat beside him for over an hour, talking, singing, sometimes cursing under my breath in frustration, all while the mother bear remained outside, lifting her head once to meet my gaze before lowering it again, a simple gesture of trust I'll never forget, amazed that a wild animal could overcome its fear of humans to this extent. By noon, the cub moved its paw for the first time, just a little, lazily testing if its muscles still worked. Relief washed over me, tears streaming down my face unnoticed as I whispered to the cub, despite the panic inside me, aware that I was just a writer with a pile of towels and a heating pad, trying to save a wild animal I knew nothing about. The cub lay in front of it, swaddled like a newborn, one paw sticking out. The wound on its paw had started bleeding again. On closer look, it resembled a bite mark, swollen, red, clearly infected, something that would kill it faster than a chill or exhaustion. I grabbed hydrogen peroxide, something I use for my own cuts, soaked a cloth and gently pressed it to the wound. The cub flinched, which thrilled me. Pain meant it was still fighting, its nervous system intact. Outside, a soft grumble. I looked out again. The mother bear hadn't moved, her massive body still, but her eyes tracked every shadow, every movement in the house. I cracked the door open and whispered to her, "He's still with us." Barely, but hanging on. She didn't respond, didn't growl, just took a deep breath as if understanding. Back inside, I sat on the floor beside the cub, offering more honey water. This time, its tongue moved more deliberately, lapping at the sweet liquid. Small progress, but progress. My phone rang. "Rachel again. Ginny thinks you're insane, but she's on her way with some meds. You'll have them in a few hours." Thank God. His paw's bleeding, looks like a bite. "I think he's feverish," I rushed to tell her. "Keep him warm, no sudden movements, keep him hydrated, and for God's sake, don't leave the door wide open. That mama bear won't stay calm forever," Rachel warned. She was right. It was a miracle the bear hadn't torn the house apart to get to her cub. But for some reason she trusted me, a fact that weighed on my soul. Hours passed. The cub grew more active, trying to roll over. "Easy, buddy," I murmured. "It's early yet. Rest." Then it made a strange noise, not a growl, not a squeak, but something in between, like a broken toy coming back to life. I cleaned its paw again. The bleeding had slowed, the wound still inflamed but less angry. Outside, the mother bear paced restlessly before settling again. I lit the wood stove, heating the house until it was stifling. The cub needed warmth, not me, fresh air. By evening, shadows shifted, and a small miracle happened. The cub opened one eye, just one, and looked straight at me. No wildness, no fear in its gaze, just awareness, as if it saw me, understood who I was. "You're not alone anymore, little one," I whispered, warmth spreading through me unrelated to the heater. It blinked, then slept again, but for the first time that day I felt it might live. No guarantee, just a chance I hadn't dared hope for that morning. When Rachel and Ginny arrived at sunset, the bear had retreated into the forest shadows but hadn't left, still watching from a safe distance. "Holy hell, you weren't kidding," Rachel gasped at the sight of the cub, while Ginny got to work, examining it with professional focus. "This is an adult male's bite," she said after a thorough check. "Male bears sometimes kill cubs to force females back into mating. This one's lucky, his mother protected him and brought him to you. It's incredible she chose a human. Maybe she'd seen you before, sizing you up before taking such a desperate step." The thought chilled me, that a wild animal had assessed me before entrusting me with its most precious possession. Ginny and Rachel spent hours cleaning the wound, administering antibiotics, hydrating the tiny body. When they left, the cub's breathing was steadier, its paw properly bandaged. "We'll leave you with meds and instructions," Ginny said, packing up. "But once he's better, you'll have to release him. He can't stay with you forever, Aiden." I nodded, though I was already growing attached to this little creature fighting for its life before my eyes. Over the next 2 weeks, the cub recovered astonishingly fast. Wounds healing, appetite returning, curiosity growing as it explored my home. I named him Baxter just because it fit, though I knew I shouldn't name a wild animal I'd have to release. The mother bear visited daily, sometimes approaching, often keeping her distance, always watching. I left food out, which she sometimes took, sometimes ignored, as if refusing to rely on human help. One day, when Baxter was confidently roaming the house, even trying to climb furniture, Deputy Sheriff Louise Gentry paid an unexpected visit. "Aiden, rumors say you've got a bear cub, and its mother's practically settled on your land," she said bluntly, standing where the bear had left her cub weeks before. I didn't deny it, telling her the whole story. She listened, arms crossed, expression unreadable, then said, "You're lucky no one's been hurt. But this is a problem. Wildlife Services knows. They're coming in 3 days to take the cub, maybe relocate the mother. I can delay it, but the choice is yours. You've got to do something." That night I couldn't sleep, watching Baxter curled in his blanket nest, so cozy, so safe, yet so wrong for a wild animal. I knew I couldn't keep him forever, couldn't raise him as a pet, couldn't deny him the chance to be what he was born to be, a free bear in the Adirondack woods. Yet the thought of letting go felt like tearing out a piece of my heart. The next morning I made a decision. Without waiting for Wildlife Services or the mother bear to reclaim him, I carefully placed Baxter in a large carrier lined with familiar blankets, his favorite toy, an old tennis ball, and food for the journey. Then I drove deep into the forest, to a clearing surrounded by dense spruce trees where I thought the bear's den might be. I parked, opened the carrier, and Baxter blinked at the sunlight, sniffing the forest air. "This is your real home, little one," I said, throat tight. I stepped aside, giving him space. He hesitated, took a few steps, then stopped, looking back at me as if confused. Then we both heard it, a branch snapping. At the edge of the clearing stood the mother bear, watching us, wary but not aggressive. Our eyes met, and in hers, I saw that same strange understanding from the first day. Slowly, I stepped back further, signaling I meant no threat, that I was returning her cub to where it belonged. Baxter froze, torn between me and his mother, between trust and instinct, between human warmth and the wild's call. The bear made a soft sound, half grunt, half purr, and the cub turned to her, taking hesitant steps, stopping, then moving again. My heart swelled as the distance between them closed, motherhood reuniting what cruelty and chance had split apart. Just as they were about to touch noses, Baxter suddenly turned, sprinting back to bury his snout in my leg. A goodbye or thank you I'd never know. I knelt, stroking his fur one last time, whispering words he couldn't understand but might feel. "Be brave, little one. You've got this." Then I gently nudged him toward his mother. This time he didn't hesitate, leaping to her side. She sniffed him carefully, as if ensuring this was truly her cub, unharmed. Then, unexpectedly, the bear lifted her head, looked straight at me, tilted it slightly, almost a nod, before turning and walking into the forest, her cub beside her. Baxter glanced back just once before disappearing forever among the trees. I stood in the clearing a long time, feeling a strange mix of pain and fulfillment, loss and rightness, as if I'd closed a chapter of a book I never meant to write, one that had changed me forever. Back home, the house felt too quiet, too empty without a little brown whirlwind upturning everything. I gathered Baxter's blankets, toys, bowls, all traces of him, and boxed them up to the attic, unable to part with them completely. Months passed. Life returned to normal, writing, walking the woods, enjoying solitude. But sometimes, especially at dusk, I'd sit on the porch with tea, staring at the tree line, knowing somewhere in those woods lived a cub who once slept on my couch and drank honey from my palm. One autumn morning, I stepped outside to find a small gift on the porch, a pile of ripe wild berries, neatly stacked as if carefully placed. No one was around, but I knew who'd left them. Smiling, I glimpsed a shadow in the trees, maybe just light playing tricks, or maybe a mother and cub letting me know they remembered they were okay, that the boundaries between our worlds could be thinner than we thought. Every fall since, when leaves change color, I find small gifts on the porch, berries, pine cones, once even a beautiful rock, as if saying, "We're still here. We remember. We're grateful." It reminds me that the most important encounters happen without warning, and the deepest bonds form when we least expect them. Now, when I write, I often think of the bear who trusted me with her most precious gift and the cub who taught me that love means being able to let go. In a world where lines between wild and tame are sharply drawn, they remind me that compassion crosses species, and trust can bloom in unexpected places beyond fear and prejudice. When visitors ask about the unusual wooden bear statue on my shelf, I smile and say it's just a souvenir from the Adirondacks. But to me it's more, a reminder of the weeks my home became a sanctuary for the wild, and I, briefly, a guardian of another life before returning it to its rightful owners, the endless forest and the mother who never stopped waiting.